surprise, surprise, it was Meghan Markle.
Prince Harry is refusing, it seems, to play along with Meghan Markle's games, and that's proven, especially for me, with this staged Dodgers video that has just been released.
Of course, darling. Grab your cup of tea and get comfortable, because this is the royal bombshell we've been waiting for. Just between us, the interview nobody saw coming has finally landed, and it's spicier than we ever imagined. For years, we watched Prince Harry stand loyally by Meghan's side, navigating that royal drama, the brutal media storms, and those endless headlines that painted them as rebels, victims, or villains depending on the week. But lately, honey, something has shifted in the air. And now, in what's being called his most raw and heartbreaking moment yet, Harry is finally pulling back the velvet curtain on what truly went on behind those palace walls and what Meghan really did to him. Let me tell you, the truth is so much darker than any of our group chats guessed. We've all witnessed his heartbreaking transformation from the cheeky, red-headed prince we adored to the isolated, weary man we see today. But as one insider whispered to the Telegraph, and you know they have the best sources, he's finally seeing the pieces for what they were. And we're talking about manipulation, control, and a brilliantly clever rewriting of his entire life story. Now, let's rewind a little, because this didn't just happen overnight. It all started when Harry appeared at a posh private wellness summit in California last weekend, one of those events meant to highlight men's mental health. It seemed perfectly normal, until a journalist asked a question that hit a nerve we didn't even know was exposed. Do you ever feel like you lost yourself in love? Can you even?
So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK, of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland.
Well, let me set the scene for you. The moment that question was asked, Perry just paused. That trademark smile of his just flickered and vanished. Then, with a deep, weary sigh you could feel all the way in the back row, he confessed, "Yeah, there was a time I didn't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. I thought I was finding freedom, but sometimes freedom can look a lot like a cage." Honey, you could have heard a pin drop in that room. And those words, so heavy, so heartbreakingly honest, well, they spread across the internet like wildfire. Freedom can look a lot like a cage. Now, we don't need a roadmap to figure out who he was talking about, do we?
I would like to look at a timeline of what's happened for Meghan, because over time she started off, and there was no question that she had, her values were about forwarding Meghan.
Oh, honey, within hours, the frenzy began. Royal watchers were dissecting every syllable, psychologists were weighing in on the morning shows, and former aides were whispering all the juiciest tidbits to the tabloids. One even told the Daily Mail, that's the closest he's ever come to admitting regret. And honestly, can you blame anyone for thinking that? Because according to my sources close to the Sussex Circle, Harry and Meghan's relationship has hit a devastating breaking point, one that's been simmering for months behind the perfectly manicured hedges of their Montecito mansion. Rumour has it the first crack appeared during the chaos of their stalled Netflix projects. Meghan, they say, wanted to double down. More documentaries, more brand deals, more luxury. But Harry? He just wanted peace. He wanted quiet. He's tired, one insider said, bluntly. He's exhausted from being used as the mouthpiece, the symbol, the husband who always agrees. He's starting to realize how much of his own life he gave up, trying to protect someone who might never have wanted saving in the first place. And that, right there, is the gut punch. It reminds me of that picture of them at the softball game when the kiss cam came on. A lot of people have commented on it, but I want to point out the specific technique they used, misdirection and forced laughter. It's all right there in that strained moment. For the longest time, Harry truly believed he was the knight in shining armor, gallantly rescuing Meghan from a cruel, outdated institution. But what he's slowly realizing, painfully, quietly, is that he might have been the one who needed rescuing all along. And this newfound clarity didn't just appear overnight. It's been creeping up on him, moment by moment, especially as he watches the world move on without him. His family has moved on. His brother is thriving. Even his father, King Charles, has softened his stance, focusing more on his legacy than old family feuds. And meanwhile, Harry is stuck, not in London, not in LA, but in a heartbreaking limbo of his own making.
Specific technique is misdirection and laughter.
And as for Meghan, well, according to one source, she's not backing down, she's doubling down on control. Everything in their life goes through her, the source claimed. From the projects he accepts to the people he's even allowed to speak with, it's all meticulously filtered. She's reportedly terrified he'll go off script, girls, and that's exactly what he just did at that summit, which explains the absolute chaos that followed. Within minutes of the clip going viral, Meghan's team allegedly went into a full-blown damage control frenzy, calling PR advisors, reaching out to journalists, even contacting the summit organizers to see if they could somehow clarify his remarks. But honey, The internet had already run with it. People were calling it Harry's slip of truth. And behind the scenes, it said Meghan was absolutely furious. She confronted him, revealed one insider. She told him he was being careless, that he was feeding the tabloids exactly what they wanted. But for the first time in a long, long time, he didn't back down. Harry, it seems, is finally starting to push back. And when you step back and look at the whole picture, his sudden silence during their joint interviews, his solo appearances at charity events, that new, quieter demeanor, it paints the portrait of a man beginning to break free from an emotional chokehold. But here's where it gets even messier. Because right after his candid remark, Harry reportedly stayed behind at the summit for a private chat with attendees. And that's where, according to witnesses, he dropped another bombshell. When asked about his mental health journey, he said, "Healing means telling the truth even when it hurts people you love." Can you imagine? Those words hit hard. And for anyone who knows Harry's story, it sounded like a veiled confession, a man completely torn between loyalty and liberation. The tabloids, of course, jumped on it instantly. Headlines screamed things like Harry's cryptic confession hints at marital turmoil and Prince finally admits pain behind Meghan marriage. But according to insiders, those headlines aren't far off the mark. Apparently, Harry's close friends have noticed a huge shift in his attitude. He's withdrawn, reflective, spending more time alone. One former military buddy told the Mirror he used to be the guy cracking jokes and buying the next round. Now he just stares into his drink. It's like he's somewhere else entirely. And if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, he reportedly told that same friend something truly chilling: "Sometimes I miss being invisible." Just let that sink in. The prince who traded a palace for privacy, now wishing he could simply disappear. It just goes to show, you never really know what's happening behind closed doors, no matter how perfect the picture looks. 4. And here, darling, is the bitter pill we all saw coming. Harry's grand pursuit of freedom became the very gilded cage that trapped him. All those luxury deals, the documentaries, the global interviews, they were supposed to give him a new purpose. Instead, they've become chains, heavy with guilt and 24-karat gold. And Meghan? She's watching him unravel in real time. But according to those in the know, her focus isn't on mending her marriage, it's on salvaging the brand. She's terrified this new, honest Harry could destroy everything they've built, a Hollywood insider confided. Which begs the question we're all asking over our book club wine. Is this the beginning of the end? Because Harry isn't just revealing emotion anymore. He's revealing truth. Truth about control, about lost identity, about the devastating cost of love when it's tangled up with fame. And the most haunting part? He's doing it publicly. Every word feels like a man testing the waters, daring to speak without permission for the first time in years. And judging by Meghan's reaction, the panicked phone calls, the frantic damage control, it's clear this is one truth bomb that can't be contained. Because once Harry started speaking, he simply couldn't stop. And what he said next? That's when everything shattered. If Harry's quiet confession at the wellness summit sent tremors through Montecito, Meghan's reaction turned them into a full-blown earthquake. The moment that clip started trending, millions of views in just hours, insiders say Meghan went into meltdown mode. Phones were ringing off the hook, PR advisors were scrambling, and her poor assistant reportedly walked into the mansion to find Meghan pacing barefoot across the cold marble, phone in hand, barking, "Get it taken down. I don't care how. Flag it. Call the press team. Do something." But there was no stopping it. Harry's words, "Freedom can look a lot like a cage," had already been carved into the internet's memory. No PR spin, no polished joint statement could erase that. For years, Meghan had masterfully shaped their narrative. Every headline, every podcast, every camera angle was meticulously controlled. But this time, she'd lost her grip on the script, and it drove her absolutely mad. Sources close to the couple say she confronted Harry the moment he walked in the door. And what followed was one of their most explosive fights yet. It ended with Harry, for the first time, standing his ground and telling her, "I didn't attack you. I just told the truth." 6 little words that were like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. Meghan stormed off, slamming a door so hard it rattled the chandelier. But the real explosion was happening online. Royal watchers were tearing apart their every move. Twitter threads, TikTok analyses, YouTube breakdowns, all zeroing in on one thing: Harry's finally cracking. Even the British press, which Harry had spent years fighting, smelled blood. The next morning's headlines were merciless: Prince Harry's cryptic confession, trouble in paradise, Sussex fairy tale crumbling. And for once, Harry didn't seem angry about it. According to a close friend, he actually looked relieved. "It's like he's letting the truth breathe again," the friend said. Like he's finally admitting to himself that this isn't what he thought it would be. But Meghan wasn't about to let that narrative take hold. She launched into full-blown PR warfare, calling in favours and commissioning sympathetic outlets to run damage control. Within 48 hours, pieces emerged painting Harry as emotionally fragile and taken out of context. The spin was brutal and brilliant. But the public wasn't buying it. The clip spoke for itself. When her team pushed the idea that they were stronger than ever, commenters flooded the posts, he looks miserable. She's not protecting him anymore, she's protecting herself. Behind closed doors, things were even worse. Friends say Harry became withdrawn, spending hours alone in the garden. He reportedly stopped taking calls from Meghan's Hollywood contacts, distancing himself from the very circle that defined their new life. He's starting to realize how isolated he's become, one insider whispered. He has no family to turn to, no old friends left, and the only voice in his ear for years has been hers. And that realization, my dear, hit him like a tidal wave. Because once the illusion cracks, there's simply no going back.